Okay, in the last class, we have discussed about the data warehouse architecture, basic one. And today, we will discuss the rest two different types of data warehouse architecture. The first one is data warehouse architecture with staging area. Now, in the basic data warehouse architecture, you can see that there is no such means what I can say preprocessor, or you can say filter in between the data coming from sources to the data warehouse. You will see that in the case of basic data warehouse architecture, data are directly coming from sources to the data warehouse, and users are directly accessing the data from that data warehouse. Okay, there is no middle layer between them. Now, what happens in the case of this data warehouse architecture with staging area? We now going to insert one such layer in between them. The reason was we have to clean and process the operational information before directly putting it into the data warehouse. And we can do this programmatically, although the data warehouse uses a staging area. So staging area means what? The staging area simplifies data cleansing process and consolidation for operational method coming from multiple sources, especially for enterprise data warehouse, where all relevant data of an enterprise is consolidated. One more definition is that a staging area, or sometimes it is also known as landing zone, is an intermediate storage area that we use for data processing during the extract, transform, and load process. You all should remember that this ETL process is very important in the case of data preprocessing also. And what actually ETL stands for: extract, transform, and load process. The data staging area sits between the data source and the data targets, where in this case, this data target is the data warehouse. Now, if I try to show it with some diagram, so some figures, then this one is a very good one. You can see that this is the staging area, right? This is the staging area. So the data coming from different sources now needs to pass through or needs to land at that staging area, and there the pre-processing part will be done. Only after that, that filtered data will be put into the data warehouse. Okay. So this data warehouse architecture does include one more layer between the data sources and the data warehouse. And what is that? That is our staging area. Okay, I hope it is clear to you now. Now, again, source system from one to one, that is staging area, then code area, and then presentation area. This is one more figure for that. Again, one more figure that will help you to understand this staging area in a better way is this one: data sources, staging area, warehouse. Thus, you need to remember that staging area is nothing but the area where we try to clean the data that we have got from multiple sources. Okay, so in the case of this type of data warehouse architecture, we are not directly putting the data into the data warehouse, but before that, we are trying to clean them. Now, I told you about this ETL process. Now, today's first question is that what is the full form of ETL? That is, ETL stands for what? Just I told you that this is a kind of process that we use for extract, transformation, and load. Here, an ETL tool extracts the data from various data sources, and then it transforms it in the staging area, and then finally loads the data. That means clean data into the data warehouse system. So this diagram, you can see that in this case of staging area, it is being utilized by that ETL process, because that ETL process or ETL tool is extracting data from different sources, putting them in the means transforming them from that unclean data to the clean one, and then that clean or that process data, that ETL tool tries to load in the data warehouse. Okay, so this ETL process is clear to you? Now coming to the third type of data warehouse architecture, we have already discussed data warehouse architecture. First type, that is basic one. Second one is that data warehouse architecture with staging area. Now the last one is data warehouse architecture with staging area and data marts. We may sometimes want to customize our data warehouse architecture for multiple groups within our organization. अभी यहाँ तक तो ठीक था, आपका जो स्टैकिंग एरिया था यहाँ पे आपने प्री प्रोसेस कर दिया, ठीक है। पहले ऐसा था कि डाटा से डायरेक्ट डाटा वेयरहाउस में डाटा लोड किया गया था. नाउ यू हैव क्लीन द डाटा एट स्टैकिंग एरिया, देन यू आर लोडिंग इट with that ETL process. Now what happens if you look at this side? This is the right hand side, I hope. Now here the users are directly accessing those data from data warehouse. The data mart concept is what? Data mart concept is that you need to organize the data in the data warehouse into different groups. Okay. So one more layer coming in this case, in this data warehouse architecture. So that's why we have named it as data warehouse architecture with staging area and data warehouse. Now, question is again, what is data mart? I already told you that data mart is talking about grouping the data of the data warehouse with respect to some divisions. Okay, but how we will define it? A data mart is a segment of a data warehouse that can be provided that can provide information for reporting and analysis on a particular section, unit, department, or operation in the company. Like, you know, in a company, we may have sales, payroll, production, etc. So data mart हम ये sales, payroll, production और suppose HR, ये different types के लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं, organize कर सकते हैं, right? So that is the data mart. Now look at this figure. See, यहाँ पे मैंने आप लोगों को ETL process के बारे में, कैसे data stacking area and ETL process is related. I already told you, but in this figure, it's very much clear. From different sources of the data through ETL process, what we have done, we have loaded that data into that data warehouse. Now, users are not directly linked to the data. You can see here. Now, the data of the data warehouse, we are organizing them into different divisions or segments. You can see the star. Okay, these are some different segments, and they are known as data marts. So we are making it more customized. So this is in the third type of architecture where we are using ETL process, that is the data stacking area, as well as data marts. So in a more specialized or customized way of storing the data in the data warehouse architecture. Okay. So in summary, we can say that data mart is a structure or actions pattern specific to data warehouse environments that is used to retrieve client-facing data, and data mart is a subset of the data warehouse, and we usually actually segment the data of the data warehouse with respect to some divisions or with respect to some specific business line or team like sales, HR, IT department, like this. So I hope that data concept is also now clear to you. Again, let's look at this figure. Data sources, different data sources. Suppose in the midst of them, you have what? Can anybody among you tell me what will come here after the data sources and before the data warehouse? What layer will come here? Sanu, you can answer me, or Barsha, you can answer me. What will be the layer in between them, data source and data warehouse? Okay, no answer from their side. I think probably they will answer for comment. So I'll check the comments. What will be the layer coming between these data sources and data warehouse in the third type of data warehouse architecture? Then you can see the data warehouse now divided into different segments: sales, financial, product, IT department, etc. Now, we have completed this part, that is different types of data warehouse architecture. Now coming to the properties of data warehouse architecture. Properties of data warehouse architecture means why we are dividing this data warehouse architecture into different types. And the main properties behind that are: first, separation; second, scalability; third, extensibility; fourth, security; fifth, administrability. Now this separation, extensibility, security, and administrability, this is very much clear to you. But there is a technical term here, that is scalability. Can any one of you tell me what does it mean by scalability? Scalability का meaning क्या है? कोई बता सकते हैं आप लोगों से?
So we can add more resources.
We can add more resources. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, very good. I think she is Barsha who has answered the question. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So separation, nothing to explain. You know that why we are trying to divide this data warehouse architecture into different types. Separation is needed, like that in the case of first basic data warehouse architecture, you cannot see any separation. Whenever the layer means whenever the architecture is being improved, you will see separation between those different layers, like the input and the data warehouse and the data warehouse and the suppose users. You will say it's different layers. So this separation. So separation is for analytical and transactional processing that should be kept apart as much as possible. So analytical part और transaction processing part को हम क्या कर रहे हैं, एक separation ला रहे हैं, ठीक है? और वो कैसे लाया आप लोगों ने देख लिया, तीनों different types का जो data warehouse architecture था, तो लास्ट में और ज्यादा separation हमने लाया third type of data warehouse architecture. Scalability, as both society, is very clear. We can easily upgrade the data whenever it is needed. Whenever data volume being increased, we need to upgrade our architecture to meet that demand. Then extensibility means the architecture should be able to perform new operations and technologies without redesigning the whole system. So that difference between these two terms, scalability and extensibility. Scalability आपने देखा, जैसे ही डाटा वॉल्यूम इंक्रीज हो रहा है, तो वो आर्किटेक्चर ऐसा होना चाहिए कि हम इजीली उस चीज को अडॉप्ट कर पाए, अपग्रेड कर पाए, ठीक है? एक्सटेंसिबिलिटी का मतलब ये है whenever we need to perform some new operation or we need to adopt some new technologies, then we don't need to redesign the whole system. The architecture should be able to perform those different new operations and adopt those new technologies with the same architecture, with the same means what I can say standard they are currently at in the means in their system. Okay, we don't need to redesign the whole architecture. They can easily adopt it. So, dear students, you have to understand the difference between scalability and extensibility. And I think it is very much clear from these two. Then security means monitoring accesses are necessary because of the strategic data stored in the data warehouse. तो आपने देखा कि ETL प्रोसेस में क्या हो रहा था, extract, transform and load. Okay, this also can be thought as a kind of means secured mechanism to keep only the relevant data in the data warehouse. Then administrability, data warehouse management should not be complicated. Okay, so these are the properties of data warehouse architecture: separation, scalability, extensibility, security, and administrability. Okay, now we come to that a process for data warehouse construction we'll discuss in the next class. I hope we can stop right here. Today we have completed the different types of data warehouse architecture and the properties of data warehouse architecture. And you kindly answer the question that I have asked before 6 p.m. of today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.